Today is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. It is now 9 a.m. Could you please take roll call, Director Waters?
Michelle Espinoza.
Here.
Renee Lind.
Here.
Joe Chang.
Here.
Graham Kaltenbach is absent, as is Josh Broadbeck, but you have a quorum.
Great, thank you. I have public presentation of issues not on today's agenda. Are we doing that today?
Since it's on there, yes.
So if anybody from the public, if you'd like to address the commission, you should see a hand icon. If you click that, we'll call your name. And Madam Chair, we do not have anybody.
All right, we will move on to the non-rulemaking hearing, commission approved forms. The Colorado Real Estate Commission, the commission has the authority to promulgate real estate forms for current use by real estate brokers pursuant to section 12-10-403 CRS. These forms are referred to as commission approved forms. The purpose of this hearing is to hear oral testimony and accept written submissions relating to the following commission approved forms: brokerage duties addendum to property management agreement, contract to buy and sell real estate, earnest money receipt, energy benchmarking disclosure. This is new. Exclusive right to lease listing contract, manufactured home addendum to contract to buy and sell real estate, manufactured home amend extend, manufactured home contract to buy and sell, manufactured home counter proposal, notice to terminate, residential addendum to contract to buy and sell real estate, exclusive right to sell listing contract, seller's property disclosure supplement new form. In addition to my fellow commissioners, here with me today are Director Waters, Deputy Director Turner, Senior Advisor Phipps, sorry if I said that wrong, Board Liaison Doreen Archuleta from the Division of Real Estate, Angela Little from the Attorney General's Office, and Kent Levine and Damien Cox from the Forms Committee. The public record will consist of all testimony and any written information submitted within the allowable time frame. In addition to the public comments today, the Commission will review any written materials to make the final decision on the proposed new and modified forms. The public record will close at the end of this hearing. Let's now have Director Waters or the representatives of the Forms Committee explain the proposed new and modified forms.
So commissioners, I'm just going to give you a brief summary and go through all of the forms at one time. So the first one is brokerage duties addendum to property management agreement. This form was updated with the rate on disclosure language created by Senate Bill 206. Contract to buy and sell real estate. The residential, income residential, and foreclosure forms were updated to include the language required by Senate Bill 206, which is the rate on disclosure, and then Senate Bill 110, which is transparency of metro districts. The land form was updated to allow the disclosure of the metro district's website. With this form, if there's a residence on the property, a broker will use the residential addendum to make the required disclosure regarding radon. The commercial form was updated to remove the language about special districts because the new bill doesn't apply to commercial. If the property is mixed use, then a residential addendum would be used to make the required disclosure about the metro districts and radon. The earnest money receipt, this form was reformatted and the language was cleaned up. The energy benchmarking disclosure, this is a new form created at the request of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. This form serves to put the owner of a covered building on notice that they have to provide benchmark data regarding energy performance and greenhouse gas pollution. The exclusive right to lease listing contract, the change to this form includes language for the landlord to authorize the broker to provide a copy of the listing agreement to the MLS or property exchange if requested. The exclusive right to sell listing contract, the change to this form allows the seller to authorize the broker to provide a copy of the listing contract to the MLS or the property exchange if requested. The manufactured home addendum to contract to buy and sell real estate, the language in this form was updated to reference the certificate of title and includes the rate on disclosure as required by Senate Bill 206. The manufactured home amend extend, this form was updated to reference the certificate of title. The manufactured home contract to buy and sell, this form was updated to ensure consistency with the changes that were made to the contract to buy and sell in 2022. Some of the changes are refinement of language and reformatting of the language. The form is updated to reference certificate of title. It clarifies what the seller's property disclosure applies to. It also requires the rate on disclosure as required by Senate Bill 206. The manufactured home counter proposal, this was updated to reference the certificate of title. The notice to terminate, the changes to this form updates the language in the grid about unsatisfactory conditions. It also deletes the section numbers under the seller's notification. The residential addendum to the contract to buy and sell real estate, this form was updated to include the disclosure language about special taxing metro districts. It also includes the rate on disclosure as required by Senate Bill 206. The seller's property disclosure, with these forms, the rate on disclosure language was included as required by Senate Bill 206. With the land seller's property disclosure, the references to structures were removed from the form. The commercial SPD, the checkbox at the top to indicate that it was a supplement to the residential, was removed. And then the seller's property disclosures supplement, this is a new form that is used to make disclosure about additional structures located on the property.
Okay. Thank you so much for that explanation. Any comments or questions from my fellow commissioners?
I do for the contracts to buy, so for the commercial, of course, 8.4 on special taxing in metro districts. I do believe there should be more research and disclosure on this, but with the addition of the official website for the metropolitan district, if any is, I feel like that will be left blank a lot when it shouldn't be, unfortunately. And I just wonder if, because of the way it's worded, especially, will that lead to a false sense to the consumer that, oh, it's not in a metro district. So I was trying to figure out, is it better just to leave off the if any, or
Commissioner Chang, I agree with your concerns. Unfortunately, the bill doesn't give us a lot of latitude as what we can do with this, as far as it says it has to be disclosed somewhere as far as this this website, if there is one. You know, some properties are not in metro districts. I have been told by CAR that the plan is to talk to the MLSs about putting this as a field in the MLSs. So when the buyer broker is creating the contract, that they have that information that they can put it in. So hopefully that'll address this. Frankly, I thought before the bill passed, it was addressed because it was in the certificate of certificate of taxes or tax certificate, because it does list out the different special districts that are in a tax certificate so that the consumer is on notice that there is one. This was just an extra safeguard that they wanted as far as the website.
Okay. And I totally agree with that, but going back to your point with the MLS, so I did a very scientific study where so I like Green Valley Ranch. I know by DIA, I know that's a metro district. So I went and looked at the active listings that I could find, and of 37 of them, 14 of them say that it's not in a metro district. So even relying on the real estate agent to properly, I guess, disclose that, that's why I think that this field is going to be left blank a lot and kind of might mislead the consumer.
Like I said, I don't disagree with you. That unfortunately is what the statute says, is that the seller now has an obligation to disclose the website if they live in a metro district. So it's not even a real estate broker obligation, it's the seller's obligation.
Okay.
But we thought we had this handled before the legislation came out, and the fact that it is in the tax certificate, all of, when you get a tax certificate from the title company, it lists all of those districts that are taxing authorities. So we thought it was handled there. Legislature disagreed with us.
Okay. Understood.
Commissioner Chang, I've had a discussion with RE Colorado, and they've indicated that they do have a field that that hopefully they don't know if it'll be immediate. It'll take some time to be able to get it effectuated, at least between now and January 1 of 24, when the new law becomes effective. Ideally, it will auto-populate within the respective contract to be able to get filled in, but at least the data itself is supposed to be able to at least be imported. And as far as training and the words, information to be able to get to the brokerage industry, I think that's going to be education. And apparently most all of the MLSs will have that ability. So that's the direction that we're going based on the mandate from the statute.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments?
So just in general, assuming most of these are just things that would be cleaned up, I'm sure, as the forms are done. Like, for instance, on the broker duties addendum, the dates have not been updated. Is that something that would just be cleaned up once these are approved? Because we don't have the dates when it's effective. We haven't changed the BDA number.
Sure, be that way. Yeah, I'll get those updated.
Okay.
My apologies.
Once the substantive matters are approved, there'll be hopefully a delegation to the director to allow the proofing and editing to be able to rectify the clerical items, and during the proofing process before they're finally posted, well prior to the January 1st date. Damien and all will be rectifying those items.
All right, so we don't need to point out we're missing ands and commas and things like that. It'll be fixed.
Commissioner Line, if you don't mind, if you have a list of those, if you would send them to me, that'd be great, because needless to say, we miss stuff. No matter how many times I have people look at these or how many times we go through them, we just miss things. So I just made the changes to the brokerage duties addendum. But if you have a list that you've already gotten, if you want to send it to me, that'd be very helpful.
Okay,
Chair,
and then
I'm sorry, Renee. Chair Espinoza or Director Waters, could you clarify whether the commissioners are talking about the forms and substance right now, or whether you're going to walk through each form one by one? Because I think I think they're trying to give you all their feedback in one go, and I'm not sure that's how the meeting is intended to progress.
So I think if you want to give us your individual comments about each of the forms, this would be the appropriate time to do so. Typographical errors and that sort of stuff, as Kent and Damien have said, that's something that usually you give us a delegation and we go through and clean those up. The goal of the non-rulemaking hearing is to go over the substantive changes that cause the forms to actually have to go through this process.
Okay, so I think what Angela was saying is that we're asking if we're doing all comments here before we go through each individual form. Was that correct, Angela?
That was my question, because I know you have a script, Michelle.
Okay. Well, before we move on, is there any other questions or comments before we move on to the testimony phase? Hearing none, at this time, we will start the testimony phase of the hearing. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Please speak clearly and slowly for the recording. Please state your full name and identify the name of the organization that you are representing, if applicable. Finally, please limit your testimony to only the proposed new and modified forms, and do not duplicate testimony. Should the commission or any of its representatives have a question regarding your testimony, we will ask when you have finished your testimony. If you desire to provide testimony, please raise your virtual hand so division staff can know who to call on.
So anybody from the public, just please click the virtual hand and we'll call your name if you have comments on any of the proposed forms. Madam Chair, I do not see anybody.
All right. Let's see. While that ends the testimony portion of the hearing, we will now consider the proposed new and modified forms. Do I have a motion regarding the proposed forms?
And I think Commissioner Espinoza, there might be some further discussion from the commissioners on the forms. I just didn't know if you wanted to talk about them all in one go, or if you wanted to sort of order the discussion by the forms themselves.
So, fellow commissioners, do you want to go by each form and just kind of, we can name them off, and then if we have any discussion, we can discuss it then, and then do a vote at the end?
I don't think it's necessary to go through each form. The more,
Okay.
if the changes are spread over most of them, so I don't think we need to go through each one.
I agree.
All right. So is there any other questions or comments about the changes to any of these forms?
Yep.
This may be the shortest meeting in history. Angela looks a little concerned.
No, I just have a comment on the radon language for Kent and Damien, and this carries over through several of the contracts to buy and sell, as well as the manufactured homes documents. So if this is an appropriate time, I'll just
Please.
communicate my comments now. First of all, there's a word all. It's in the second line of the language. In the statute, I believe that word was in an increased font size. And I couldn't tell from the way these edits are on the red line form if that is intended to be underlined. My suggestion would be to just underline the word all in that second line across the board, consistent with, I think, the statute's intent to give that further emphasis.
Thank you. No, it was not, but thank you for pointing that out.
I also noticed there was a difference in formatting of the language, a slight difference in the two manufactured forms versus the contracts to buy and sell. I kind of like the manufactured format better. I'm not sure that language about the brochure needs to be in all caps and bolded the same way the other language does. So regardless of which way you go, it might make sense to have the same format across all the forms since the language is the same.
Sure, thank you.
And I think my last comment on radon is just about the brochure. And I wasn't in any of your meetings, but I'm sure you struggled with how to communicate the reference to the brochure. It's a little hard to find, I thought, just from that general radon website web address. I could understand why you didn't want to include the specific web address for the brochure itself, at least the one that I think I found. It's kind of it has OIT in it. It's a little bit unusual. A suggestion might be just to direct the consumer to what I think CDPHE intends them to look at would be to put quotes around radon and real estate transactions in Colorado, which is the heading that I think they need to go to, and then just alter the web address that you have slightly so that it's cdphe.colorado.gov/radon-and-real-estate, because I think that's where they need to go. And it was just a little cumbersome to get there from the general radon website, I thought.
Would you cover that again for me, please?
Sure.
Angela? So the I think I got the so it's cdphe.colorado.gov/radons-and-
I'm not sure if it's a
estate.
front slash or a backslash, to be honest. I'm
Yeah,
not
whatever
good at
it is.
that. But it's
Backslash.
radon and real estate, and then there's a hyphen between each word. And so if they go there instead of the general website, the thing that they should look at, I believe, is under the heading radon and real estate transactions in Colorado. So if you put it in quotes, then they'll be one step closer to that brochure. I believe that is the brochure that's referenced by the statute.
Radon and Radon in real estate transactions. I know, where did you want me to put the quotes to reference that? Is
So
that in
there's a
the,
reference in the form language.
on the form language?
Let me
Okay.
pull it up.
In the contract to buy and sell line.
Yeah, it says that provides advice about. And what you have in the language is radon in real estate transactions. And I would just use the quotes that are in the website, which is radon and real estate transactions in Colorado. Just put that language in quotes because that's in the website.
Got it.
I just think that'll get them a little closer to the brochure.
No, that's great. Okay, I think I got it.
I have one more radon comment, if you'll bear with me, and that's in the brokerage duties addendum.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull that up if indulge me. Okay.
So at the very end, where the language says, as well as other information, the landlord has regarding radon and radon mitigation within the property, as well as other information. That didn't strike me as very clear, the as well as other information. So I might be inclined to take that out or just add the words about radon concentrations to the end of it. As well as other information about radon concentrations. I think you wanted to be inclusive in that language, and I respect that. It just struck me as a little unclear as to what other information it was referring to.
Okay, so if I add about radon concentrations at the end of as well as other information, would that be better?
I think so. I would just add as well as other information about radon concentrations. I think that
Okay.
that just kind of pulls it back to the subject matter at hand.
Okay. Anything else?
Not from me. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, any other another opportunity just for any questions or comments you may have thought of as Angela was giving her advice? Okay, then I think we're ready. I'm so just discombobulated because it's so fast. So I feel like I'm missing something. But at this point, do I have a motion regarding the proposed forms?
I move that we approve the proposed forms with the minor changes that Damien's written down.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to adopt the new and modified forms. Any other discussion? All right. The question is on the adoption of the motion that is proposed new and that the proposed new and modified forms be adopted. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries and the proposed new and modified forms are adopted. I think do we need to make a motion for any cleanup? Marcia?
Yes, please. If you could give us a delegation of authority to basically make any non-substantive changes to the forms to get them kind of through the proofing and the finalization process.
All right. Can we get a motion for that delegation?
I move that we delegate any cleanup necessary without changing the intent or what'd you say, Marcia? Substantive.
Yeah, and any non-substantive changes you would be allowing us
Okay.
to make.
Okay.
All right. Non-substantive changes. Okay. We have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. With that, that concludes the fastest hearing or meeting I've ever been a part of as a member of the commissioners. So everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for participating, and thank you to the Forms Committee for all your hard work. Marcia, for all your hard work. I really appreciate it. We'll see everybody in August.
Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
commissioners.
Thanks, everyone.